Elon Musk touched on Singapore's total fertility rate, and he said that Singapore is going to be extinct at 0.97.
Part of the reason is cost, but that's because they worry about the cost of having children. But that's not the only driver.
So I want to know, because I have a big family scale, is there any things that depend on the government, whether they encourage the MNC companies to give the same leave to these bigger family parents?
If we were to go for medical appointments, we have to take MC. And then for IVF, I think the leave itself, I think I have to take around 2 weeks already. So that's really taken up all my medical leave. Definitely, it's going to impact us, women, or himself also, as we try to progress in our career.
I didn't expect that I need to take MC to attend her medical checkups.
So now the pressure is on me to make sure that Singaporeans get the message. So anyway, just mesti cuba lah, must try.
Mesti cuba, must try. Hai, selamat kembali ke satu lagi episod NoTapis. Saya Natasha Mustafa. Hari ini studio bukan ada 2 guest saja, tapi actually ramai, meriah sangat-sangat. Tapi untuk memudahkan perbincangan antara tamu kita hari ini, kita akan berbahasa English. So who is in the studio with us today? Jeng, boleh guess tak? Can you guess? It is none other than Miss Indranee Rajah. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Aside from her, we also have 2 other couples together with us today. They are Sharifah and Aizuddin. How are you? And then we also have Irda and Akmal. How are you guys? Great. So we know that Miss Indranee is actually part of the PMO lah, right? But you know what is the thing that we always think about when we see her on TV or maybe read in the papers? She will always tell people to have more children. Why? Because Singapore's birth rate is very low. I'm not married, but even I feel the pressure when I see you on TV. And I'm like, relax, don't tell me yet. So, my first question is, in your career, you are actually a lawyer, right? Which is one of the hardest job I feel out there. Is asking people to have more babies the most difficult task you have ever been given?
Yeah, I think I would rate it as one of the toughest jobs. But this one, yeah, maybe. But this one is my portfolio. So, SMD, when he was PM, gave me a call and he said, Indranee, I want you to be in charge of this portfolio. And I was like, alamak. So now the pressure is on me to make sure that Singaporeans get the message. So anyway, just mesti cuba lah, must try.
Mesti cuba, must try. So it's not only me feeling the pressure, but you're also feeling the pressure. But right, has anybody ever questioned whether you are the right person to actually talk about it?
Well, not to me anyway. Nobody's ever asked me that. But I think that essentially, right, it doesn't really matter who you are, what your gender is, what your status is. The most important thing when you have this portfolio is really to understand the viewpoint of those who either have children or who want to have children. That is the most important thing. Your own position is not so much the key thing. And one of the first things that I did when I was assigned this portfolio was really to have dialogues and engagements with married couples as well as singles who were thinking about getting married. And then within the married couples, I also engaged with those who hadn't had children yet and those who already had children at different stages. Because parents with children in primary school have different priorities and concerns for those who have children in secondary school, for example, right? So, you really have to listen to all the different viewpoints and take that into account.
Right. So there's a lot of aspects when it comes to actually taking out this portfolio. I mean, when we talk about the fertility rate, right? Recently, Elon Musk touched on Singapore's total fertility rate, and he said that Singapore is going to be extinct. But right, actually, when we look at it, the total fertility rate in Singapore is 0.97, which is not that far off, I feel. It looks like it's actually in the red. So do you think this is considered like an emergency? And is this why the government is actually rolling out the different policies and all to actually bring up the birth rate?
Well, it's clearly a very important national issue because if we want Singapore to prosper and to grow, you must have our own population. It's not viable to always have immigration. Immigration is nice, it supplements the population, but we really want our own Singapore population, which means that you need Singaporeans to get married and have children. So TFR is not great, 0.97. Korea's is less than ours.
Yep.
But on the bright side, very recently, Korea has showed a slight improvement. And for us, at least the 24 figure for babies was slightly better than the previous year. We have 300 babies more
Wow.
than the previous year.
Okay.
And I think some part of it is also due to COVID. Because when we had COVID, it really interrupted our housing supply. And of course, when you don't have housing, you don't have a home, you can't set up your family. We'll have to see. We've taken quite a lot of steps since COVID, but it's going to take some time for those measures to show results.
So in line with those efforts, more recently, large families actually feel more seen with the latest schemes announced. Personally, I feel like in the Malay community, more parents, relatively, they are quite open to having like 2 or more, right? But then there are also some people who are like, maybe just 1 or maybe just 2, then like I'm done. Because like I have like friends that are my age, I'm quite young my age who are actually feeling like, oh, more than 2 is a bit too much. Like, so before this, you said that, large family schemes is not an incentive, right? Nor is it a reward. So what is the main objective then, if it's not a reward or an incentive?
It's really meant to be support, to give assurance to couples who want to have more than 2 children. So let me just backtrack a bit and give the big picture, right? Globally, all the developed societies have seen a drop in both marriage rates as well as their TFR. Singapore is not the only one. I mean, our figure just happens to stand out because it's below 1, but almost every other country, including Malaysia and our neighboring countries, have seen a drop in birth rates. Part of the reason is cost, but that's because they worry about the cost of having children. But that's not the only driver. There are a couple of other key drivers. One is aspirations and lifestyle. I think in our parents' time, and in the case of my time, you all are younger, so not so much yours, marriage was seen as a milestone. It's one of the things that when you reach your 20s, you get married, you have children, you progress along your career. But I think with the millennials and with Gen Z, they see marriage and children as a capstone. So they will hit other milestones along the way, and then this comes at the end. The only thing though is that if it comes at the end, you're much older.
Right.
And when you're older, there will be fertility issues and other related and associated risks. But that is a generational change across the world. Then the other factor is time. Money is one thing, but there's a separate currency, and that is time. People don't have the time because they're so busy at work. They've got deadlines to meet. They have got many things to do. And then having to take time out, first to have the child, then after that, when the child is born, looking after the child, or when the child falls ill, then after that, the second child comes along and the cycle repeats, or it's doubled. For many people who have ambitions for their career, that is also a barrier. So that's one of the things that we can talk about that later. We've also sought to address that as well.
So there are actually a number of factors that actually affect the fertility rate here. It's not just whether the couple actually wants to have babies, but there are things like jobs and also like the ability to have children.
And also, I think many of them, especially those who've had 1 or 2, it's like, wow, having 1 or 2, very tired already.
I cannot have any more like that.
Don't have bandwidth to have a third one. So that's why this year's measures focused on the 3rd child and beyond.
Okay, enough of me asking questions. As I've mentioned, we actually have 2 couples here with us today. First is actually Sharifah. She is actually a housewife, and her husband, Aizuddin, who is a real estate agent. Together, they have 8 lovely children, aged 13 to 2 years old. Wow, this family very big, can be football team already. Okay, and then we also have a second couple. We have Erda and Akmal. They are both financial advisors and have been married for 5 years but have no children yet. But they are trying, despite having going for treatments like IUI and IVF, they have yet to see any progress from there. So now we would like to hear from the families. Yeah, Sharifa, you are a mother of 8 children. Just now, our minister just said that there are several challenges cited by some individuals for not maybe wanting to have kids or wanting to have more kids. For you, I wanted to ask you, what actually made you think like, okay lah, not 2, not 3, but 8?
To be honest, when I got married, I think at about 24, I didn't think of having a lot of children. So perhaps I was maybe I was a chill person. So whatever I have, I just take, that kind of thing. So as the number grows, I realized, this is like it's growing. Yeah, so I didn't realize that. Not that I don't realize that I have a lot of kids. It's just that I don't think about it so much. I think I agree with Minister what she said about it having to be a milestone instead of having it to be some sort of obligatory thing to do.
And for you guys as a large family, like what do you think about the schemes that have been announced to help larger families?
Alhamdulillah, I think that's good. I'm grateful for it because in terms of for larger families, it's actually another something that we could count on it for school, for healthcare, and also daily necessities. So on top of that, I would like to ask Minister, besides that, in finance part, what else could be done in terms of creating a strong social net for larger families?
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a really good question. And when we talked to parents, there are 2 groups, right? There's those who haven't had their children or had 1 or 2, are thinking about having more. And then there are those who already have large families. So for those who have not yet had the 3rd child, I think cost was a big factor that weighed in their minds, which is why when we designed the large family scheme, we said that one of the things we have to do is increase the financial support. Hence, the child development account, the first step grants increased from 5,000 to 10,000. And then for the mother, we also have an additional 5,000 for the MediSave, which can be used for herself and for the children. And then we have the Life SG credits, which goes from the 3rd child and beyond. Each child gets $1,000 per year until the child turns 6. And the credits are not just for that child alone, can be used for all the children. Then, for those who already have the large families, one consistent piece of feedback that kept coming back was transport. They said it was difficult to get transport, whether it's taxi or whether it's Grab, because the drivers are not so willing to have more children, or sometimes you just cannot fit that number in. So that is why an important part of the large family scheme is to get partners on board. And we're working with several partners. We approached Grab and we asked them to encourage their drivers to take on board families with more children, because I think you need the bigger vehicles for that, right? NTUC also, we're working with NTUC to see whether we can have large family discounts. For NTUC, the main thing is that they need to find a way to identify who's a large family and who's not, because the cashier cannot be the one to check,
Bring
right?
all the kids.
Yeah, that's right. Do head count. So once we've worked that out, then the moment you can show that you are a large family, then the idea is to have extra discounts. Then we're also encouraging other corporate partners to come on board, whether it is discounts in terms of the cost, or whether it's extra amenities, or if they have play facilities or things like that. So basically, we want to make Singapore more encouraging and friendly to those with large families, because it's not easy to move around. I mean, you have 8 children, right? Just the logistics alone of bringing the children somewhere, then you have to find activities which everybody can do. Not all of them will want to play together. As they get older, they will start to have different interests, but you still want to be together as a family. It also means that eating places, restaurants need to be family friendly as well. And of course, more activities in the community.
So how do you guys get around with 8 children?
Normally, if I were to drive, some of them will take public transport or will go by Grab. So that's the thing that we do normally. Or some of them will just stay at home, and some of them will follow us. So that is normally how we travel.
Okay.
Do you have activities in the community that the whole family can go for?
Yes, previously we have a activity. We have a silat training in the community at our estate over there. And subsequently, we also joined a football academy. So
Okay.
our interest is always in football, so it's very easy to get them together.
You have how many boys, how many girls?
I have 7 boys, 1 girl.
So even the girl also plays football?
Yes. All the
I
girls
told you
play
it's a football team.
Yes, you're
I
right.
told you. So aside from this talk about financial aspect, right? Is there any other concerns that you have as a family that is really big?
Yes, of course. The concern that I face is actually leave. The childcare leave, like you mentioned, is time. So back then I was with SCDF. They give 6+6 of this childcare leave. So I move on to another company, MNC company. They also give me only 6 childcare leave. So I want to know, because I have a big family scale, is there any things that depend on the government, whether they encourage the MNC companies to give the same leave to these bigger family parents? Because you can see the numbers is different.
No, that's a really good point. So let me just sketch out what we have, and I think now what people would like to ask for. So for the infant stage, we have got the maternity leave for the mother. Then for paternity leave, we recently increased it from, it was originally 2 weeks mandatory and then 2 weeks voluntary. Then we signaled that the additional 2 weeks voluntary would become mandatory. And then, of course, last year that was announced that it would be, so it will kick in, right? So right now it's 4 weeks of mandatory paternity leave. Then we also introduced shared parental leave, 10 weeks, which will take effect this year. 6 weeks this year of the shared parental leave, and another 4 weeks will kick in next year. The reason why we introduced this one was because parents were giving us feedback that when the child is newborn, they need more time to bond with the child. So actually this was quite a major move, 10 weeks. The default is 5 weeks to mother, 5 weeks to father, but we leave it to the parents to work out because they can change the ratio if they want, provided they work it out with their employers. Then that takes care of the part where the child is born and the few weeks after the child is born. But the next thing that kicks in is the childcare leave. So for childcare leave, the unpaid infant care leave is 12 days per parent per year. That's at the infant stage. Then I think when the child gets a bit older, it's 6 days per parent per year, which is the one that you were talking about. And then after that, there is extended childcare leave, which is an additional 2 days per parent. That's what we have at the moment in terms of the childcare. And after we announced the shared parental leave, many parents have been asking, like yourself, can we have more on the childcare? So I think the answer is that we can look at it, but we cannot do it right now because the employers already, they have a big thing on their plate with the 10-week shared parental leave. In fact, for the shared parental leave, we were wondering, can we go ahead and do all 10 weeks at one go? And the employer said, cannot, we need time to adjust the system, do our HR, everything. So in the end, after talking to the Employers Federation and the business federations, we decided to go with 6 and 4. So I think we can look at childcare leave, but must give the employer some time to settle the shared parental leave. But I can understand why parents would need more.
I mean, especially if when you have 3 or more kids in the future, if some of them actually are enticed after the large scheme families.
I was going to say, but in the meantime, we also introduced the tripartite guidelines on flexible work arrangements. Because with leave, once you mandate it, then it becomes compulsory and it is very rigid. The employers can't work around that. But we also introduced the flexible work arrangements because that way, at least if the parent needs some time off, then they can speak to the employer and the employer is obliged to consider the request. And if the answer is no, they must have a good reason why. And we have been telling the employers, actually, if you want to recruit people, nowadays, all young talent that's coming into your company, one of the most important things they're going to ask for is, do you have flexible work arrangements? And if you can do it on a win-win basis so that you can help them with their caregiving needs, it's not just young children. Some people have old parents or grandparents that they need to take care of. Sometimes they need to take them for medical appointment, right? You don't necessarily have to take one full day leave for that. But I think many people would appreciate half day, take time off, take the parent or grandparent to a polyclinic, or take your child to go see the doctor. Then you either come back work the afternoon, or you work from home, you put back the hours. So the flexible arrangements is meant to be a complement to the parental leave.
So there's a flexibility for parents to still continue doing their work on a daily basis, but then that also gives time for them to actually take care of their children at home.
It's going to take the employers a little bit of time to do this well. Actually, you need really good HR to do this.
Okay. Earlier on, we were speaking about like the number of children, right? Some people are saying that it's not the number 3 or 4 that's actually hard, but it's actually, I think sometimes it's the decision to actually want or have the first child. Because I guess like when you have a child, I don't know whether you can share, it changes your life forever. But for some people, it's not an option. Maybe Erda and Akmal, you guys can share a bit about your story.
Okay, so we have been trying since 2020. So because we are considered quite young in the eyes of the doctors, basically they diagnosed us with what they call it, unexplained infertility. So we had to go through the longer route lah. So we had to go through 1 medicated cycle, 3 IUIs, and 1 IVF. Unfortunately, it's all unsuccessful. That has been our journey so far. So right now, we're on to our second journey of IVF. So we have been trying, I think, since coming to 5 years this year lah.
And going through all these different types of like treatments, have you faced any issues or like concerns?
Concerns mainly for me was, I think, starting, I didn't know where to get the information. It was really all over the place for myself. I didn't had anyone to relate to going to this journey, because I feel like for infertility, the topic itself, not a lot of people actually talk about it. So it's very hard to get information on where to go to. And then on top of that was also the financial aspect, because it's actually very heavy in terms of cost-wise to have a child or to undergo certain treatments.
If you don't mind sharing, like how much did you actually spend?
How much?
On
Okay.
the treatment?
Yeah.
Number lah, rough.
So rough number was each IUI cycle, I think we had to fork out our own cash so that we don't use the grant, because that's what the doctor and the nurses told us lah. So roughly each IUI was around 1,000, but that is before any treatments. Like sometimes you need to go for TCM for preparations and then supplements. And for IVF, our recent one, it was not built yet, but I know like MediSave part, it was already deducted around 6,000. But this is all through the public hospital route. So we are on to our second, which we are trying to go for the private route. That is around 20 to 30K in cost. Yeah. So in terms of cost itself, it's really heavy to conceive. And then on top of that, if we were to conceive, which is a good thing, it's just that we have to look into long-term financial for our own child also on top of that. Yeah. So definitely I feel like I meet a lot of couples that are going through infertility journey. They tell me like they stop. It's mainly because of the financial portion lah.
So, is there like any routes or programs that can make it a bit more affordable for couples like maybe Erda and Akmal?
I really empathize with the journey that both of you have been through. Just a couple of comments. One, we really are trying to get society to be able to speak about fertility issues as part of a norm. In the past, there's a lot of stigma and it's like, oh, it's not something we talk about. But actually, if you think about it, fertility is no different from any other medical issue. For some people, it is easier to conceive. For some others, it's not. And increasingly, it's beginning to be recognized that it's not just a woman's issue, because in the past it was thought, oh, it's just a woman that can conceive. Now, increasingly, it's recognized that for the men, there may be issues also. The other thing that is important to bear in mind is that this is a global issue. It's not something that has been paid much attention to. But globally, fertility rates have been affected as well. Nobody quite knows exactly what the reason is. It could be environmental factors, it could be stress or whatever. It could be just the way we're living our lifestyles. So I think the first message I wanted for you to have on board is to know that you're not alone on this. It's not just the two of you. There are other couples in Singapore, and actually there are many couples worldwide. The second thing is that you made a very good point about the information not being readily available. So when we were working on the marriage and parenthood part, after we had settled many of the other measures, we started to look at fertility. In fact, I would like to do more. I didn't have the opportunity to do it in this budget. But information was quite important. So there is a group that's come together. I'm not sure if you've already in contact with them, fertility.sg. Yes, that's right. And that was a group of very passionate couples who had their own fertility challenges. And they wanted to have a website or a platform where people could come, could talk about this, and also where the information could be obtained. And they put forward a number of very useful suggestions, like kind of information that should be given at the public hospitals and private hospitals if they're prepared to accept the brochures and leaflets, and to ramp up education on this. So we are doing more in that regard for information. On the cost part, there's no doubt about it. IVF or any form of assisted reproductive technology is by its nature expensive. So for the assisted conception, there's available public funding for up to 75%. But that's something that we need to look at and see, to what extent we can support this. So I just want to say that I fully empathize with your journey. Don't give up, because we have stories from couples who have been trying for a long time and they thought they wouldn't ever get a child, and then suddenly they did. What's on your side is that you're both still young. That does make a difference.
So don't worry, you guys will have the chance. There's a lot of support going on for couples like yourself. And I would say, don't give up. Right?
Yes.
Correct?
Don't
Don't
give
give up. Earlier on, you mentioned that, some women are actually afraid to commit to, this fertility treatment. One of it is cost. But are there any other aspects aside from cost, you feel?
Personally, for my point of view, apart from cost, is like just now he mentioned about leave earlier. So I feel like in the workplace sector, leaves, normally TTC, like you mentioned as well, it's a stigma whereby if we were to go for medical appointments, we have to take MC. And then for IVF itself, I think the leave itself, I think I have to take around 2 weeks already. So that's really taken up all my medical leave. So in terms of leave-wise, I think with workplace, it's still not there yet to support our community to actually give it a go. And definitely it's going to impact us, women, or himself also, as we try to progress in our career at the same time going through treatments.
Yes, I think that is a fair point, because speaking with couples who have gone through fertility procedures, that is a common piece of feedback. Because from the employer's viewpoint, it's like there's nothing medically wrong with you. It's not like you're going for...
See it,
They cannot see it, because it's not like you're going for a surgery or something, right? And it's not like you've got a bad cold or flu. You look fine, right? As far as they're concerned. So they don't always think of it as medical. But for those who do think of it as medical, then it consumes your medical leave. So currently, and this is perhaps not the most ideal, but currently flexible work arrangements and the normal, taking normal leave or whatever medical leave should be part of it. But I think this is something that we can look at and consider whether, we should do more in this area. But the key thing, right, because with all this leave, you can mandate and legislate. But what we really need is we really need employers and workplaces to be supportive of families and to be understanding of this. Because it's not just you're taking the leave. So for some organizations, if you take that time off, somebody has to cover for you. So it means you need good HR to make sure that when you take that time off, somebody covers or the work gets done. There's another part which I get feedback very often, is that the woman takes time because she has to undergo the procedure. But when the husband also wants to take time off to support the wife, the employers are wondering, hey, how come you are not having any procedure? Why do you need to take time off? But they may not realize how important it is for the wife to have the husband there, because it is not an easy thing to undergo. So this is another area that I think that we do need to have a look at.
Was it something that you experienced yourself, Akmal? Like when you took the leave, you're like, why are you taking leave? It's not you, what?
Yeah. That experience.
Exactly that?
Exactly, correct.
So how did you navigate it?
How do I navigate it? Very, very good question.
What did you tell what did you tell your company?
Okay, before this, I was a safety personnel. So I actually wanted to progress my career as a safety officer. Okay, so I knew that we are trying to conceive, but I didn't expect that I need to take MC to attend her medical checkups. Because I believe that as a husband, I want to be there for my wife. And also, this is not what my wife wanted to go through. Yeah, so I feel that it's fair for the both of us to go through together, to give her better support. Yeah, and for the MC, this is also one of the reasons why I changed career to a self-employed. Yeah, so currently I'm a financial advisor, where I can just go to any medical checkups anytime. Yeah, I can fix my own schedule. I don't have to really think about how my MC going to affect my progression at work. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why I changed my job, and also because of this MC.
Is it something that like a lot of like maybe husbands actually face, and how can we maybe better help them?
I think this is a mindset issue. I find that for the younger parents, many of the fathers or those who want to be fathers are much more willing to spend time either looking after the children or being with the wife when the wife goes for, maternity procedures or fertility procedures. But the older generation is not quite used to that, because for an older generation, it was basically all this baby stuff, right? It's woman's
thing,
work. It's woman's thing.
It's not a
And
guy's
the guys stay in the office and they do the work. So that mindset has carried over in many ways, and it's very difficult to dislodge. Actually, sometimes for the big boss, the boss is sympathetic. It's your line manager. It's the immediate supervisor. Because the immediate supervisor is the one that when you're out of the office, then he's like, how am I going to be able to get the work done? There's nobody else to cover, which is why I keep going back and saying that HR is very important. Because if you have good HR and the HR has got arrangements that help you to cover, whether it's for childcare or whether it's for IVF or whatever it is, then the company can continue to function even though there are employees who need to take time out for family reasons. And that's why our slogan is a Singapore made for families, because what we're really trying to encourage everybody is to change mindsets. It's the small things, It's something as simple as when you say, I want to take leave to go for IVF, then if your superior starts to frown at you, they don't even have to say anything, just frown,
Just see the face.
Yeah, just see the face, not happy, right? I mean, you immediately, you don't feel good, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're legally entitled to it, there are many ways in which companies can make you feel uncomfortable. And that is why we need to change mindsets so that we're more open, accepting, certainly of fertility issues, but also supportive of families.
So when do you think the community or like the society will finally accept that, it's a big issue and they have to understand, like workers like Akmal?
I think Singaporeans all understand it's a big issue, because the moment our TFR dropped below 1, suddenly that number made everybody sit up. But making everybody sit up is one thing. In many people's minds, this is a national issue, but it's not necessarily my issue because I've had my kids already, or I'm not having kids or whatever. And for employers, they don't really have to think about it until the employee comes and says, I need this. So what we really need is for everybody to start thinking, how can I make Singapore more family friendly? It's not just employers. If you're a restaurant, for example, do you have big round tables? Or do you have long tables that can accommodate larger families? Do you have facilities or amenities like a play area for very young children so that the older members of the family can sit and talk and eat? For shopping centres, do they have spaces for children to play whilst parents can shop with peace of mind, knowing that they can leave their children there and not worry about the safety and the security of the children? Even in parks, NParks, for example, has been making sure that the parks have friendly features for all ages. So it's not just the workplace, it's all throughout Singapore. We have to think about how can we make Singapore more family friendly.
I mean, talking about like being family friendly, for Akmal, he changed his career so that he can be there for his wife, right? For Azuddin, is that something that you did as well?
Yes. It's the same. It's the same thing that I thought before. Yeah, so I transitioned from a shift worker to actually a more flexible worker. Big family, you still have to work. There's no such thing as you can get to enjoy more flexible time. No, that is not true, because you have commitments, you have deadlines, you have things to meet, living costs to sustain.
Yes.
There's a pressure on people like self-employed
Yeah.
for us.
That's true.
Like they may have the flexibility, but there's also the pressure of like, continuously keeping it up. Because like if you don't perform at a certain level, then it's like where the income, right?
Although for the shared parental leave, that's government paid, that also applies to those who are self-employed. So they are covered. So if you have the 9th one,
Bring it up to 1, bro. You can do it. We are rooting for you. Okay. So, when we talk about like work and children, right? Maybe I want to pose this question to Mr. Does the work first and enjoy later at an old age culture in Singapore still play a part in the whole issue of like maybe Singaporeans not having kids at like an early stage of life?
I think it's not so much the work first and then relax later. It's really the fact that the world and work has become more pressured and fast-paced. And I think this really happened with technology and innovation. With each of those developments, it meant that the time to communicate and respond got shorter and shorter and shorter. So the turnaround time from 3 months becomes like 3 seconds, right? So that's increased the pressure on people to respond. Then for a while, certainly in the 2000s, there was this 24/7, the world must work 24/7 kind of mindset. And you could see the pushback that happened in the 2010s because people were like wanting to disengage from work. And then during the COVID period, you also saw that, right? People sort of wanting to stop work or disengage or whatever it is. And to me, all of that is a reaction to too much pressure. So I think that the challenge for us, for Singapore as a society, is how to find the right balance where you can work, you can still achieve your aspirations, you can still get your promotions, earn a good income. But at the same time, organizations also understand and respect that people need to have some time out. I mean, if you want your person who is working for you to be working at full capacity and at optimal ability, they must have time to rest and they must have time to sleep. In Singapore, I think we have done some international surveys and we actually on average get less sleep than people in some other countries. So I think we need to catch up a bit on that and have the right balance. We don't go the other way where you're just so relaxed that you are not productive at all.
Yeah.
Then the company will be, why do I even need to employ you, right?
That's true.
But we've got to get the balance right.
Okay. So we gotta find that balance, and then maybe
That balance includes the company's balance also, because they have profits to make. They
That's
have
true.
to their P&L.
bonuses to pay.
That's right. They've got to make their balance sheets work.
I think earlier on we already spoke about large families, how parents can actually use their leaves for different aspects, right, to help their children, and also leaves for partners to help them through the different treatments that they're going for. I just want to talk about there's actually been a lot of initiatives in place subsidies for preconception and also after delivery, but there hasn't been any specific support in terms of like during the pregnancy. But this can actually be quite a difficult time, as a pregnant mom, if you don't actually have any support, it can be quite challenging for them, right? So do you think this should be considered in the future?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because MP Hani So talked about that during the Committee of Supply. And she's just had her baby. And so she said that what actually would be very helpful for parents is to have like a kind of journal which indicates the certain things that you have to do along the way, so that, especially for first-time parents, because I mean, in your case, you're already very experienced, so it's okay. But for those who are first-time parents, that you don't know what to expect, not quite sure where to go, and it's kind of like having your own personal journey. So I did tell her during the Committee of Supply debates that we would look into that, because I think it's good to be able to let parents know what to expect and to let them know that other people are also thinking about this so that they feel supported.
Okay. Last time, do you have a journal or anything?
For me, I use an app. So this is a pregnancy tracker app. So every month it will tell you, okay, your baby is this size, a jelly bean size, a size of a turtle, a size of an animal.
So cute.
Yeah. So, but that is when you download the app. It's not that the whole Singapore
would know about it.
It can be other people from other countries. So it's a closed off app lah. So not everybody knows about it.
So maybe in future an app of sorts.
We can check it out. I mean, if there's something useful out there, no need for us to reinvent the wheel. But we should also look at something that has the Singapore context.
All right. Despite all the efforts, there's so many already schemes that will encourage people to have families. There's also programs to support those who need to go for treatments, etc. Right? If Singapore's fertility rate is still low, even the dragon year maybe increase a bit, but it
didn't. I mean, we had the 300 babies.
Yes, exactly. It was only 300, right? What's come to worse, right? If you really cannot do anything to increase the TFR, what is Singapore's future then? Do you think we will really be extinct like what Elon Musk said?
Now, I mean, as far as Singapore is concerned, we will do our very best to make sure that we can continue to progress. If the local population or the core population of Singaporeans doesn't grow, then the only other alternative is to do it by immigration. But if you have too much, that would also change the character, the profile, and the Singapore identity. So I think what we do want is to have, strong TFR, where Singaporeans are at least able to replace themselves. And then because we're a small country, you can also augment with some who come from elsewhere. But the core population should be Singaporeans who are born here and raised here with Singaporean parents, right? But in order for that to happen, then you must make sure that you support these parents or parents-to-be and give them a good reason to want to have children and to feel that if they have children, at least, it's not so tough and that society as a whole supports them. So you will see that this is what we've been doing over the last few years, step by step. If you look at it logically, the first thing we had to do was to settle housing because our construction schedule for the HDB housing got completely disrupted by COVID.
Yes.
It was like nearly 2.5, 3 years it got held up. But now we've caught up. We've built 100,000 flats between 2021 to 2025. Then we introduced the priority for married couples and for young families, that means families with young children. So we're settling that part. We also enhance the resale housing grant to help Singaporeans buy resale flats in case they couldn't get BTO. For purposes of, childbirth, we enhanced the baby bonus cash gift. We increased it to about $11,000 per child. We enhanced the child development account and also increased the matching under the child development. Then we increased the unpaid infant care leave. We stepped up for the paternity leave, made it mandatory. We've now introduced the shared parental leave. And then now the large families scheme. And the flexible work arrangements. So I'm hoping that apart from the financial support that comes from this, the signals that go out will be signals to the employers, to restaurants, to recreational places, to transport, to companies, whatever, be friendly to families, because it's in the interest of the whole of Singapore. You want us to be able to thrive and to grow, right?
Yeah,
and for that, we need families.
Okay. With all those different things that you mentioned, right? What is the thing that keeps you up awake at night? We want to know.
Right. Well, I think it's really about making sure that we can have enough Singaporeans to take the future forward. And we've got about 30,000 babies, which is not bad. But I think we could do with a few more.
Okay, you want to shout out to anybody to get them to quickly increase the birth rate?
Well, it's not something that you can force, right? It's very much a personal choice. But for those who are thinking about having children, then I would say we hope that these measures are encouraging to you and that make you feel supported, so that you feel that you can have children with peace of mind.
That she wrapped it up. So there's actually been a lot of announcements this budget that specifically helps all these large families and couples to encourage them to have bigger families, not only 1, 2, but 3. And if you do have 3, there are a lot of benefits that you can enjoy, and there's a lot of support for you and your family. With that, I want to thank Minister Indranee for joining us today, as well as our couples today, Sharifah, Azuddin, and Irda and Akmal, for sharing your thoughts and your questions. I hope they were okay, the questions?
Yes.
Not difficult, All right. I wish you guys well, and I hope everything would go well for you guys in the future. And with that, we will see you guys in the next podcast.